It was another Kobe video that we saw about putting a goal out there and it being scary, because if you don't achieve it, how would you feel? How are you going to feel about yourself if you don't achieve it? Um, and that there's a defense mechanism out there. I think I'm going to get this right, Dr. J, but if I'm not, I'm sorry. But a self-sabotage method where if I don't give everything I have, if I hold something back, then I can look back and protect my ego by saying, well, I didn't try everything.
But thank you everyone for jumping on. Mike and Eli, thanks so much for the time and joining us here in the Broken Tea Society. Really exciting for this live recording of the Golfers Journal podcast with two of our favorite friends of the Golfers Journal, Mike and Eli. Everyone, you know them from the podcast Chasing Scratch, of course. How are you guys doing? Now I feel like we can relax now. But wait, now we haven't started yet.
I've got a little bit of tension. I'm not gonna lie. I got to ease
the tension. Yeah.
We're
doing good. Thanks for having us.
No, thanks so much for coming back. Folks might remember you were on the Discord before. You're the hosts, as I mentioned, of the wildly popular Chasing Scratch pod, which is described, folks who might not be familiar with it. Anyone who's here now in the live audience certainly is. But when this goes out on to the YouTube and as a podcast, just to introduce you and give a little background, your tagline: two regular guys with jobs, wives, kids, and adult responsibilities, who have dedicated the last 6 years to achieving the ultimate golf goal, a handicap of 0.0. It's been 6 years?
It sounds kind of depressing when you say it that way.
I know. What's wrong with you guys? Come on, golf's not that hard.
We're extending it out. It's been 5 years.
Going into
5 years and a
6.
month. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go. And of course, anyone who reads the Golfers Journal would recall you from Charlie Wiesel's great story in number 19. And so you came on last spring to talk about that story and your adventures. And it's, thanks for coming back. Great to see you guys. Just bumped into you quite recently down at the old PGA show. You enjoy yourselves? Yeah. How was that?
It was phenomenal. It was great to see you. Great to see our friends from Ireland there.
We caught up with you at the
house.
Yeah. Karn was in the house. We caught up at the I didn't get into the talk that Paul McGinley gave there. It was standing room only. And it was crowded as well with all the freeloading golf writers because there was free beer. So it was funny. At the PGA show, you can kind of follow, and I'm one of them, so I'm allowed to say this, but you can follow the pack of freeloaders from free breakfast to free lunch to free happy hour. And that was a good one that Ireland threw for us. I only got to see you for a minute. Wanted to hang longer, but such is the PGA show, right? It's such a whirlwind.
That's right. Yeah. But hey, we did get to talk about your speed radar.
I know. That was essential, because I do want to talk about what you guys are doing right now in terms of, your preparation this off season, how it might be a little bit different. Some of the stuff you're doing. Folks have been following you on the socials will see that you're definitely getting into the speed training, which I want to get into as well. And you guided me along on the purchase of, I guess let's just go there then, right? So you're working with, tell me about what you're doing now. Tell me about what the steps you're taking right now to get better, to get closer to scratch.
Eli, you want me to start?
Fire away. Yeah.
I'll start and you fill in. Basically, I think what we realized this year when we took a look at what we needed to do, when you look at past years, we've taken an off season, especially Eli has taken an off season where based on the weather, he can't hit a ball for 4 or 5 months. And I take a pretty decent break, and we get to the point where we start the season when it's nice golf weather time. And that's really when we're trying to score and get better at the same time. And we really just wanted to have a more put together, structured off season this year. And one of the things that we haven't done before is fully commit to a speed plan. And so we got hooked up with Sasho and the stack system. And so that's one of the first things we've done is work on speed for this first month of the year.
And to do that, Eli, sorry, you've got the stack system, but you also have the radar, the speed
PRGR, yeah.
Yep.
The PRGR monitor, which you steered me right. And it should have, you know what? It should have arrived today. I hope someone didn't grab it off the stoop. Because it's not cheap. So the speed training isn't cheap, but it seems like you're seeing some results with it.
We're seeing a lot of results, and the app, honestly, the app is the most simple thing to use on the planet. We've tried other things before, but the app with the smart technology, I mean, it literally tells you exactly when to work out. It tracks your swings as you go. With old stuff, we were having to kind of transpose it onto an Excel spreadsheet and track the progress and measure the progress. The app just really makes everything super easy. I mean, they've done a pretty phenomenal job to just dummy it down and make it almost, Eli and Mike proof. So we love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
But the surprising part is we thought Eli would just be handing it to me like he normally does with speed, and we're still not quite sure what's going on, because
I think we know exactly what's going on. Do you want to announce here on a live podcast your experimentation with deer antler spray? Because that's really the only explanation at this point as to why your gains continue to just run away from mine.
Do you want to talk about that, Mike? Do you want to get into
It could be that. I'm trying to save that for a expose piece that I'm trying to sell. Actually, that could be a Golfer's Journal thing. I don't know if you guys would be interested in that. Charlie,
absolutely.
We always thought when Charlie first reached out, we were like, does he like us, or is he trying to set us up for a hit piece? And this could be
this is it. Yeah.
This is part 2.
Yeah.
What are the numbers like? So Mike, are you getting bigger results than Eli here?
Well, we're both improving.
Yeah.
I think the surprise is just we started kind of at the same baseline, and Eli's always hit it further than me. Now, I did make a pretty significant change as far as doing some work last year with Titleist, and we saw JJ, and JJ convinced me that I wasn't taking a real backswing. So that was one of the first things that me and my coach Jason worked on this offseason, was kind of getting a backswing. So I think that might be the difference, is just that I'm making a full turn now. But yeah, I think my first driver speed was like 106, and I'm up to 121 in the app right now. That's
wow.
4 weeks in.
Damn, that's real.
Yeah.
Now that's, when you're doing this training, are you sort of swinging out of your shoes? Like your gamer swing would be like down, it would be a little bit more moderate, or is 121 like your swing off the first tee?
I don't think so. I don't think it was swing off the first tee, but like one of the things that Sasha said when we first started talking to him about it, because that was one of the things I was confused about, is you see these guys swinging out of their shoes and you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
What he said is, we're trying to increase your max speed, which also increases your cruising speed. We're not asking you to, we don't want you to swing your max on the course, but if you increase your max, you'll also increase what your cruising speed is, what your fairway finder is.
Right.
When you increase your max, your 90% is going to be just that much further. So yeah, that's the only thing. The only thing I haven't been able to do is get on a course, because every time it's been warm enough here, it's just wet, or I'm not able to get out. So I'm very interested to get out and play very soon. But
that's going to be exciting, right? To see a new. It's like taking out a new weapon.
I don't like it. It's not
like watching a birth.
It's a rebirth, Mike reborn. No, that's a good point, because when someone explained that to me, when I was watching something they were doing at TPI, and they were talking about speed training, I'm like, I don't want to do that, because I don't want to. I like that I try to swing with sort of tempo and blah blah blah. That's my thing, and I don't want to be swinging out of my shoes. I don't want to look like a long drive person, or attempting to be a long drive person. But the point was to actually if you can up your max speed, then your smooth swing gets faster. That was interesting to me. I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. So I've got all this stuff, and it begins soon. It begins soon because I, like most of the people here, I hope, in the audience, have signed up for the Golfer's Journal Index experiment, which we're really excited about. Something we're doing this year at the Golfers Journal, partly certainly inspired by yourselves, Mike and Eli, in your quest to chase scratch. So it's a community-based effort where we've asked our members to put forth their goals for this golf season. Is it handicap? Is it strokes? Is it to win your club championship? Is it to play more golf? Is it to lose weight? Any of those? I think all those things are on my list. But to put those goals forth, and then there will be, we'll be checking in on you, offering you different partnerships and different brands to work with to help you along in your journey. We're not going to be doing sort of like coaching per se, or say, here's the swing tip that, there'll be some here and there, but it's not really about coaching and swing tips. It's more about a community coming together and deciding, all right, we're going to try and play better golf. So that's why we wanted to have you guys here, because that's what you've been doing for the last 5 years. And just to sort of take a broad view of your improvement, how has it gone? Has it been, say starting at, was it 10 or 11 handicaps?
11s. Yep.
11s. Has there been sort of a lot of improvement and then a plateau? Has there been regression? How is the sort of the macro view of golf improvement been for you?
I think it's probably 3 steps forward, 2 steps back.
But I would say, but it was a lot of improvement.
Yes.
At the start.
Yeah, but there's a lot of I think anytime you dedicate, as long as you're not starting this, if you're not starting trying to go from a single digit down to scratch. We were both in the double digits, but there's a lot of low hanging fruit, I think, that gets clipped off pretty early by just playing more and getting some lessons and just learning a few things. And
Sure.
I think, the movement down to like a 6 or a 7 was really, pretty quick if I think back on it. But it's like we bottomed at 3s, and it was, man, we kind of hit a wall the last 2 years, and we've kind of floated in that 4 to 5 range for the last probably season and a half, 2 seasons. And that's really what I think spawned all the focus during this off season. It was like, okay, there's no Mickey Mouse games, that are going to get us under a 3 moving forward. Like, we have to actually put in real work with our swings, our technique, the way we think around a course, the way we practice. And, it was like, okay, we're going to have to be all in to really clip these last few strokes.
Yeah, absolutely. Where you're right now, you're in that 4. What are your handicaps currently?
4 to 5. Yeah. Right around there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this year it's about, making a change, doing something different. Speed training's a part of that. What other things do you have in the works to sort of break through that ceiling?
Well, I think, and this happened late last year, and it was kind of detailed in our last 2 episodes, but we hit a point where we were kind of like, okay, we've always said we don't want to keep doing this if we don't believe we can do it.
Mhm.
And we've never gotten to that point. We got to that point last year. We're at the end of last year, I was like, man, we've tried a bunch of different things and we're not close. And, we didn't really want to admit it, but it was like, I don't think we can get there I don't know that we can get there next year. And that was when, we talked to Dr. J. He kind of told it, he kind of reminded us about what improvement really looks like, what failure really looks like. And it's you win or you learn, and growth over results. And so that's really, we've fully bought into that this year. And I think that's like the goal of the podcast is still scratch, but
Mhm.
for the first time, it's got to be this year, because what we're trying to prioritize is that growth. And when we kind of stepped away from the more immediate trying to get there this year, I think that opened up some improvement measures that we weren't willing to take before. Like for me with my swing, it was always kind of like, nope, you can't make any changes because you got to be playing good really quickly, because in order to get down there, you've got to do it this year. It kind of freed me up to say, no, there's some things that will make me a more consistent striker of the golf ball, will bring in my dispersion, and I need to do those things. Eli, I don't know if you want to add or change anything I said, but that's.
Well, yeah, I think it just gave us the freedom to make you know, it gave us the freedom to make the changes I believe were holding us back.
Mhm.
But, back to Mike's comment about, losing the winter. I mean, you don't touch you don't hit a golf ball for 5 months. It's not like you step out in April and just start striping the ball. I mean, there's 60 days there where you're just trying to get back to where you finished the season at. And
Yeah.
by the time that happens, you're into the beginning of June and it's like, oh my gosh, like we got a window here, we got to play. And so, even last year, Mike and I would argue a little bit about, my pro Larry Ward wanted me to make a couple really difficult swing changes that needed to be made. We both said they needed to be made, but it was like, yeah, you're not going to hit the ball well for a while if you make those changes. Like you can't do that. You can't do that in June and July. You're supposed to be scoring in June and July and dropping the handicap. So, I think it just gave us the freedom. It gave us the freedom to the kind of the constraints were off to really put time in and focus in where we needed to put focus in.
So that's interesting. So your notion of what success is in this journey, starts with one, this a very rigid definition, 0.0,
Mhm.
right? But then it becomes about something else, or you're measuring it differently. When you take that step back, what are the things that you're looking at to say, okay, is it strokes gained? Is it club head speed? Um, is it positions in TrackMan? Where are you looking now to say, okay, these are my immediate goals?
I think the process, honestly, more than anything.
Okay.
That was something that Dr. J emphasized. He said, and even my coach Larry Ward, he said, look, you are successful if you stick to the process. The results will come at some point, but you need to rewire yourself. Success is sticking to the process. If you put the work in and you do what you're supposed to do, you were successful. And even down to, on the course, it's kind of been a rewiring of, okay, did you take the time to think about the shot? Did you execute? Did you get over the ball the right way? Did you, have the right yardage? Did you make the swing you wanted to make? All right. So if you didn't get the outcome, that's okay. You were successful because you did what what you intended to do, and eventually the result will come. And I think there's just been some rewiring with Mike and I to say, all right, like this off season, like we definitely want to make gains in speed, and we're both working on things in our swing that there's some technical aspects and some skill aspects that we want to measure. But like at the end of the day, it's like, are you putting in the real work that we set out to put in over these months? And, we're doing that. So in my mind, it's like, okay, we're successful already. I don't know what that translates to when we go outside in April, but we're already doing what we need to do. I don't know, Mike, are you in the same place?
That was well said. Yeah, I was just gonna say
Oh, it was
there's
well said.
the yeah, but I mean
Gosh,
it
thanks,
really
guy.
is what has been what has been told to us from almost the get go. I mean, season one we didn't talk to that many people because uh, we were just we just talked to each other really, but the strokes came down really fast, and I think even though the people that we did talk to were like those last few strokes are gonna be the hardest, I think both of us were like, yeah, for y'all, but we're fine. We're gonna keep getting better. And then when we didn't,
Yeah.
but very early in season two, it was like you guys got to fall in love. Like the difference between you and people that are actually good is they fall in love with the process. And I don't think we understood what that meant until we really redefined what success and failure was. And we're trying to look at that on a weekly basis on the podcast. We have a segment called Hard Look. We take a hard look back at the week prior that we just had, and it's like, what did you learn? What did we learn from that past week, and how are we going to get better from that past week? And so I think that's really the biggest difference. To your specific question, I do have very specific things I've worked on with my coach around setting a baseline. My biggest problem looking at strokes gained is getting on the green. If I'm on the green, I'm fine, but getting on the green is where my issue is. So we're going to set a baseline for greens and regulation. We're going to try to have goals every month on how to improving that by one green a month. But I think that it starts with that kind of taking a step back and looking at what success really is, I think.
It's really well said. I mean, trust the process. Being a Sixers fan, it's working out pretty good. I see Dr. J. Speaking of the Sixers, I see Dr. J here in the audience.
Hey, Dr. J.
Dr. J.
I don't think that's Julius. Robbie, can you pull Dr. J up onto the stage?
Oh, come on.
What do you
Let's
think?
do it.
If this is the Dr. J.
I've invited him to
Okay,
speak.
he's
We
raised
shall
his hand.
see.
He's been invited to speak, and he's jumped up here.
Dr.
Dr.
J.
How are you?
And what is up?
What is up, my friend? Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
I don't mean to crash the party.
No, but I mean, it's kind of you're there, and everyone we're talking about you, and everyone, why not let you speak for yourself? No, but I just wanted to get your take on this notion of defining success and failure. So the folks here in the Broken Tea Society that are, part of the index experiment, we set these goals, and we say, okay, if we achieve those goals, we'll feel successful. If we don't achieve them, they'll in some way be a failure. I think maybe that's not how you would see it.
No, definitely not. And the boys and I have been talking about this since a fireside chat, right, Eli?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. We subscribe to Kobe, and we're going to take the Mamba track. And failure doesn't exist. So failure is only if you don't learn. So anytime you set a goal and you don't achieve it, you have to look at why not and figure that out and keep moving forward. So anytime you're not going to make it, it's not a failure. It's just another opportunity to learn. Every obstacle is an opportunity.
Absolutely. Amen. So there's going to be a lot of learning this year, no matter which way they go.
There's been a lot of learning.
So Dr. J, before we let you back to the audience, what would you
Yes.
say to, what could you tell our folks in the index experiment who are saying, all right, this year, I want to get my handicap down 5 strokes. The goals might not be as ambitious as going from 11 to 0. But still 5 strokes is a lot and is a marked achievement. So if someone was trying to shave 5 strokes, where would you start them, or what would you have to tell them?
Well, as you know, Tom, I mean, 5 strokes is relative, right? So if you're high, 5 strokes is going to be a little bit easier than going from 6 to 1.
Sure.
So it obviously depends on where they're at in their game. But I would set, some ambitious performance-related goals, in terms of greens and regulation or speed, like the guys are doing. But then you got to, as they've been talking about before I came on, it's focus on that process. What is with your control that you can do every day to get you 1% better? And Mike and I always talk about, atomic habits and getting that 1% better and building those habits. And they're doing it. I mean, the guys have really taken this on since the final major. And I'm really excited for this season.
As am I, as should everyone. It's kind of cool. I mean, what's been great to follow, what's been great about following Chasing Scratch is the community that's grown up around it, who have set their own game improvement goals. And so that's what's been a lot of fun so far. I mean, we're just starting this off, but to see the excitement in this server here and among our subscribers about, all right, yeah, I want to take steps this year. But I like the way that you're talking about it here, that those steps, no matter where we get in the end, that the process, that there's has a lot to offer.
It does.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. J, for jumping up here. And that was and we know how to get in touch with you. Then love to have you back on the pod to talk some more about the mental game and game improvement.
Thanks,
Be
Dr.
my
J.
honor. Thanks, Tom.
Dr. J.
Thanks, guys.
See you, buddy.
Dr. J.
Well,
See you, buddy.
So Mike and Eli, our listeners who are about to undergo this sort of where you were 5 years ago, just give us some don'ts. Give us some pitfalls to avoid in terms of things that you look back on and you think, man, that was a waste of a month or a year or whatever it was. Just some things they might try to avoid.
I think learning how to practice is probably the biggest thing that we've struggled with, or one of the biggest things that we've struggled with. We've documented on our podcast, we were like random coin toss guys on the driving range. It was like, we could go to the driving range 5 days a week, and we would get marginally better because we just we would go out and, or I'll speak for myself, I had no real plan. Or you'd go, all right, I'm gonna hit wedges from X yardage today, and the first 5 were good ones. I think I'm good on that. I think I'm okay on that. Or you didn't have an alignment stick down every shot to know, what your intent was as far as aiming. I mean, we were all over the board on how to practice. And I think the biggest thing I would say is, you don't need, I'm learning, you don't need to hit 10 billion, golf balls a day, but you need to have intent every time you go out and practice. And you need to know exactly what it is. Where is it you're trying to improve? Like Dr. J said, where are you trying to get 1% better that day? And I don't think that we were good at that, the last, couple of years. I think that we just kind of went out and didn't really have a plan. So I think learning to practice is huge. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I think that's big. I think, the other thing that we'd fall into was, worrying about how we looked. So like even if we'd go out to the range, you might have a plan. Like I think, we learned to have a plan, but if that plan for me didn't go well, I'd find something that I was hitting well and I'd practice something that I was good at. So if I went to hit drivers and I was putting them into the house, next to the driving range, I would give up that plan because I wanted to, not look bad and just hit a few chips and wedges. So I think kind of shedding the vanity is a big one. And then, but I'd also say just truly understanding what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. We've made a big deal about not getting down YouTube rabbit holes. We've done it many times with trying to go through and compare our moves to, oh, I think my swing needs to look like Rory, or I would really like if I drop the club like this. And we've wasted countless months chasing things that we didn't even understand. Like I didn't understand why. I was just like, well, that looks cool. I want to do that. Or they'd come up with the Biz Hub, Swing Vision, Konica Minolta, whatever that thing used to be called. And you'd be like, oh, that's what I need. What Peter Costas just said, that's the thing. Like so let's go work on that. So I just say find a really good coach that you can trust and ask questions and understand why understand the reasoning and the vision about why the changes you're needing to make, the changes that you're being recommended to make, why you're doing those.
That's such a good point.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably the biggest change this off season. This is the first time Mike and I, went to our coaches and just said, we don't know what it takes to get here. Like we do not know what it takes, and we need, we're done. We submit, like draw the plan out, tell us exactly what to do, and we're just going to follow it blindly. Which has been great because I didn't know, I never would have been doing the things that I'm doing if, I would have had control of what I've been doing these last few months.
That's such a good point that both you're making, especially, the YouTube rabbit holes and thinking about that would be like the biggest difference between, what you're doing now and what, when I was doing Paper Tiger. I mean, I don't want to date myself. The internet, it did exist. Computers were around.
There was a sketch drawing of a swing.
Yeah, I had one of those flip books, and you just had to flip it real quick.
You had the lightning and the key every time you tried to.
The Bobby
like
Jones
a Disney
swing.
graphic.
Okay, yeah. No. Come on. There was, but there wasn't a lot on YouTube that you would watch, and you wouldn't pull it up on your phone constantly. Anyway, it was a flip phone era, so I didn't have the opportunity to sort of go down those rabbit holes. The only resource I had was Dr. Jim Suddy, the coach I was working with, and so I was there constantly. And the only screen I was looking at was his, and it was my swing on it, and him sort of pointing out position. So that was, I think, certainly to my benefit, because I do find myself going down those rabbit holes and watching. I watch Kawa swing, and I just want to trap it like that. And that's just, my hips don't move. I've got to accept it and understand my body doesn't move that way. And it's funny because like even Max Homa saying this weekend that sometimes you're just one good swing thought away.
or being good. Yeah.
Damn. I believe that because when you've had those stretches, and we've all had them, where you're like, oh, this is making sense. It's for me, it's been one swing thought or one move or one thing I'm thinking about, and it lasts for a week or two, and then you need to move on to something else, and I guess maybe that's what we're searching for on YouTube. But like you said, work with someone you trust, who understands your swing, and get the swing thoughts from them versus someone who's never seen you swing a golf club before is probably good advice. And along the way, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
I was just saying, I'd recommend that.
Yeah, why not? Training aids. That's another thing, another rabbit hole that we can go down, right? If I'm sitting here in the golfus and I can put my eyes on about 7 to 10 different training aids, because maybe this is the one that's going to unlock it.
Is the inside approach in there?
Oh, that's in the garage.
Jim Sourwine's in the garage right now.
There are that they're going to be the thing that's going to unlock golf for us. What's been your experience with training aids? What works? Have you found any that haven't? Because certainly some folks in the index experiment, that's going to be part of their journey.
I think I'll speak for what I'm using right now. The pressure plate from Y Golf has been something that I've been using the last, probably 6-7 weeks, which isn't, for what I struggle with, which is, really getting weight to my front foot. And it creates all kinds of issues as far as, some technical aspects of my swing and not being able to control my low point. That's been one that I jumped.
Bottom control.
Hashtag bottom control. It's our new rap album. But the pressure plate's been awesome. So I use that, and it's I use it maybe 5 minutes every couple days, and it just kind of helps ingrain a feel. But that's probably the first one off the top of my head. Mike mentioned the inside approach. I quick tangent. I bought the inside approach. Mike, what was that? Probably 20 years ago. I don't know. 15, 20 years ago.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with the training aid, but it destroyed me. It destroyed me right before a round.
It was one of the best moments of my life, to see him just implode in one swing. So anyway, don't buy that. But
okay.
Sorry, Jim Sourwine.
Watch out for that one. Tell me about these the pressure plates. Is that what is that? What is it? I mean, I know pressure plates like standing in a swing studio. That's
no, not don't. Yeah, don't.
I hope you didn't buy one of those because they're about $15,000.
Yeah, I've got a giant swing studio in my bedroom now.
We've really taken things to the next level.
Yeah, first of all, the first thing you all need to do this, you need a general contractor. And
a business loan. We've got a great guy. I'll get you a price.
We're going to talk about Prime here in about the next 5 minutes and where you need to be on that. But so the pressure plate, it's just think like a teeter-totter almost, just on a smaller scale. Yeah. So basically, it's there on the back swing to make sure your weight goes to the back foot, and then it's there to shift to the front of the board of the plate. And the plate's only probably, I don't know, maybe 3 feet wide. But it's awesome. It's great you can use it with a ball. You can use it just sitting in your living room. And like I said, it's for the issues I have, which is traditionally no attack angle and poor bottom control. It's great.
It doesn't sound unlike what I got for Christmas this year, the downshift board, which I'm enjoying. Jaron, our friend Jaron here, was playing on it earlier. But yeah, it's that teeter-totter sort of effect. So you feel your weight, and you're able to sort of transition without, the sort of subtle transition, moving things forward, getting on your other side. Mm-hmm. Pretty fun. Lots of good stuff. What are you using, Mike?
Both of our coaches like the lag shot. It is how would you describe it? It's almost like an orange whip with a club head on it. But it's a very loose shaft. But for me, my biggest issue is I get to the top and I rush the downswing and
Right.
pull and come over the top, pull it. If you do that with this club, like you will not hit the ball. So it's a fairly good transition. It helps with the transition club not to rush the transition. And they've got a 7-iron and a wedge. I know Larry, when we saw Larry at the PGA show, he was raving about the wedge and how that helps you stay in line. So
Are you actually hitting a ball with this thing?
yeah, you can hit a ball with it.
Oh, okay. So it's different than the orange whip in that regard.
It
Very
is
hard. Very hard to hit balls with the orange whip. I found out.
That's yeah. You have to be really skilled to do that. But
It's like catching a fly with chopsticks.
After. But
I was waiting for orange whip, 3 orange whips, but anyway.
I love but for the record, I haven't used what's it called again?
Lag shot.
The lag shot. Okay. Haven't used the lag shot. Always been a big fan of the orange whip though. I feel like in terms of transition and timing and tempo, that if I'm hitting it really poorly, I sort of that's a way I can reset, is to sort of think, all right, swing like you've got the orange whip in your hand, it gets you to sort of pause a little bit at the top and go for it. Something pretty exciting I should mention for folks who have signed up for the index experiment here at the Golfers Journal. We've got a new deal with Arcos, a great discount on the Arcos system for our members. So Arcos, I just got mine. I'm incredibly excited to try it out. Some of the Broken Tea Society folks have been using it already and getting really cool results. So not a training aid per se, but it's those little chips you sort of put on the back end of your clubs. And by using the GPS technology, it tells you exactly how far, without you having to do anything or track anything, it tells you exactly how far your clubs are going. Because it knows when you hit the club, it knows when you get to the next shot, etc. So pretty excited about that. So if you're part of the index experiment, definitely you want to take advantage of those discounts. All this stuff is in your member locker, where you can get your discounts, where you can sign up for the index experiment. So go to golfersjournal.com and check out your member locker. What are you spending most of your time working on when you do go to practice, right? And you were talking about, hitting clubs that you're good at, etc. That balance between beating balls, putting, chipping, etc. Do you try to keep it sort of spread out? Is there, this goes back to learning how to practice. What is the best way? Because I think what's great about what you guys have done and why there's such a following and so many people appreciate you is that your journey is very relatable, and that you don't have all the time in the world. You have families, you have jobs, and so the time that you have to practice is pretty precious. And that's something that index experiment folks are going to run into, not having enough time. What's the best way to spend that time?
I think we've been I don't know that we've ever gotten that right. But I can tell you, I think one of the things that I think for sure we've gotten wrong is we've gone either all in on the technical route or all in on the skill route. And it's kind of like, okay, every time I go practice, I'm working on these technical swing things, but then we did not, I didn't spend any time like actually playing competitive games on the range or, doing skill work with club face or learning how to hit different parts of the club face. But then when we kind of learned about that, at least me, I went all skill and abandoned technical, which I found out that's not really good for me either. So I think there's a balance. I do think where we've tried to go kind of get expert advice this year is we've just gone to our coaches and they've laid out a plan. So my coach, Jason Nickel, has given me a daily plan of a ball count of this is how many, and it's like 45 minutes a day, which is a lot of inside stuff, because I'm not going to be able to get to a course every day and like most people, but yeah, I think it depends on the different things you're working on. I will say that one of the things that I've neglected in the past is wedges. So that's a part of kind of every practice session is a few close wedges and trying to really dial in those distances where I would go months without practicing that just because that had been a strength of mine. But Eli, I'll let you answer.
Well, no, I think the wedge thing has been huge for me. And I would practice wedges, but I would kind of go through these spurts where it was like, all right, the next 2 weeks I'm doing nothing but hitting wedges on the range. And it was kind of like, well, if that green marker they've got out on the range is 62 yards, then that's what I'm going to hit to. And Larry, one of the things Larry, really ironed out with me was, we sat down and he basically said, look, you need whatever, 2 wedge swings, 3 wedge swings. That's it. He's like, and you're going to hit the same, if this is your stock swing with a 50, with a 54 that goes 72 yards, we're going to know the yardage that swing goes with the same tempo with, a 48, with a pitch. Like, we're going to just know these yardages, and you really only need, whatever, 2 swings. And one of the things that I think he's helped demystify with me is just, I don't need 12,000 hours in a row with a wedge in my hand. Usually at the end of every lesson, we put the Tour Tempo app down for 10 minutes. I grab my 54 and he says, okay, stock swing 72 yards. And that's what we do.
There's a training aid. Tour Tempo.
Yeah, there's a training aid, Tour Tempo app. But,
dun, dun, dun.
dun. But I think that's been nice too, even just mentally to alleviate some of that pressure. Because for that 10 minutes, I know, okay, we're just kind of grooving it. I'm just remembering exactly what it feels like to hit it to this yardage. And maybe there's one, technical thing in there that I'm working on, but mostly it's, just good tempo, listen to the app, and think about this one technical thought and let's just groove this swing. And then that way, when I grab another wedge, I'm not recreating the wheel. It's not like, well, that wedge, that's that you've heard the clock system. It's like, that's 10 o'clock, but this one's 11 and this one's 9. It's like, nope, here's the swing, different club, here's the yardage. And I don't know, that's helped free me up a lot. But I think with my practice, one of the things Larry said to me a couple weeks ago, which is really stuck, but he said, look, you can't be technical guy out on the range all the time. You just can't do it. He said, maybe you take 10 minutes a night or every other night to work on just some slow-mo technical things with your swing while you're sitting in your living room. So, but when you show up to practice, like, you got to trust that those technical things are working their way into your regular swing at some level. And, that was really hard for me to trust because I just don't, he knows he'll forget more about the golf swing than I'll ever learn. And, a couple weeks ago, he pulled out video from lessons we had 4 years ago and said, look, you don't even realize it, but here's where this has worked its way in and this and this and this. And it was like, man, I didn't think those things, I didn't think my swing looked like that 3-4 years ago. So I think some of that's just saying, okay, I don't need to have this technical thing change tomorrow. I got to spend, 10 minutes a day working on this. When I go out and practice, I got to practice without worrying about if I'm getting to the exact spot. And I'll video some. We'll look at it when I'm done. I'll learn if I'm where I need to be or not. And if not, we'll go back and hit it the next day. So I don't know. I feel like that's just freed me up.
That's very helpful, I think, to hear, because in my experience, I've had coaches explain to me that to really implement a swing change, it's 10,000 balls per swing change, and which is pretty intimidating. And for most of us, totally impossible if we had 10,000 balls in 5 years. For some of us, that would be great. So, but that idea that there can be those along the way, that there are those incremental changes, that if there's something you're working on, and maybe you're not working on it, not even at the range, that it's sort of seeping in slowly. I think that's something that's important and it gets back to this idea of process that, that you were talking about, that there will be, to be aware of and be open to those small changes, those small improvements, that after a year, you look back and say, wow, look how far I've come. That you're not going to show up on the driving range tomorrow, and because you were doing some work in front of the mirror, you're going to be transformed. Like, I'm an early extender, like my hips like move forward in impact. And I kind of stand up at impact. And it's incredibly frustrating. And I even hate to watch anyone video my swing because I just see it constantly. And I've tried everything to like sort of fix it, but that was the wrong attitude. Like, cause I was like, I have to fix this, right? I'm probably never going to fix it. I can probably, but I can make it a little bit better over time. You know, I can get my posture can get a little bit better. I can get in better shape to have better posture. Those are things that I'm working on. So I think that idea of getting into the sort of incremental changes and not demanding overnight transformations is important to keep in mind as we're on this, you know, journey to get better. But I think that was also a great point about the wedges, because dialing in your numbers for wedges, I mean, we all go on TrackMan with our drivers, right?
Yeah.
No, you know, I don't think I've ever been on TrackMan with my wedges. And drivers the club where you need to be least precise.
Right.
You know, and you go on TrackMan to get all these numbers for that. I should go on with my wedges and find out exactly what, you know, what those numbers are, because yeah, you're like, oh, there's the 100-yard marker. I'll hit some clubs there. I don't know if it went, you know, I don't know if it went 70, 80 or 90 yards, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think
I'll
just free.
I can hit a 70 or an 80 or a 90. It's the
Yeah.
same swing. It'll
Same
go
swing.
somewhere. It'll hit the
Yeah.
green.
But I think too, just
Exactly.
I think that goes back to some strategy stuff that we just didn't like. I just didn't know. Mike didn't know. You know, like I mean, Larry's you know spent time. You know, he's coached pros and you know high level you know college you know guys and gals and you know juniors and all those things. And he was like, you know, look, you see these guys in the pros hit it to 3 feet on a 105-yard shot, and you're like, yep, that's what they do. And he's like, no, they don't. He's like, you know, they had a range. You know, they knew this club lands here, and you know, sometimes you sync it up perfectly, and you know, it looks great. But he was like, you know, mostly, you know, look, you hit the ball to 20 feet with your scoring clubs, like you're way above, you're way above average, and you're doing really well. So I think just some of those things, just strategy wise, you know, I think will free us up, and also just knowing that it doesn't take. You don't have to go out to, like you said, you don't have to go to the range and hit 10,000 balls. Like I can end every range session with 10 minutes of the Tour Tempo app and, you know, some intent, you know, some intent around the yardages I'm trying to hit to, and be, again, not that I'm going to be a pro, but I'll be 1,000 times better than I was over the last, you know, 5 years.
What is this Tour Tempo app you speak of? I remember the book Tour Tempo, but I didn't know.
It's basically
Again,
a metronome.
dating myself.
It's an app. Yeah, it's just an app in the App Store, and it has different. What does it have? Different ratios of
Mhm.
different swing speeds that you can. So you test. I think there's like 5 ratios you can test, but it has like a beep to start the swing, a beep to set your backswing, and a beep to like mimic impact. It's we've actually both been using that a little bit.
Yeah.
It's good.
Check it out.
It'll help you. It'll help
Yep.
you. Eli made fun of me when I first brought it up, and now he's using it.
I really did. I commented about, I don't know how many times I commented to you online or offline. Did you get your metronome today? You think that's going to unlock everything? Did you just get it going, ticking in the back of your AirPods? But it is great. I love it.
Hey, one thing that Eli did say though that we didn't hit on, because you know depending on what you're trying to improve, we've been focusing a lot about on swing stuff, but like learning how to play, like and make decisions. Like I was notoriously the worst decision maker, and I was so bad, and I'm still not great, but I'm way better at understanding what a good shot is, when to pull back, when your goal just needs to be to get somewhere close to the green and have a 30-yard shot rather than try to hit the hero shot. But understanding what good golf looked like is also was also really important, and I think we learned that late because we were scared to play with better players.
Yeah.
And so that I would say not being scared to play with the best player at your club, or you know someone who's really good. That's something that advice we got early, and I don't think we took it because once we started finally playing with better players, we're like, oh, they don't hit the ball that much better than us. They just don't hit these terrible shots that destroy their entire round like we do. They're just more. They make less mistakes. They don't make. They don't. It's not a stripe show, and that was, I think that was a big eye opener for us that we learned way too late.
No doubt about it. That's such a great point, that what good golf looks like sometimes it doesn't look that good.
Yeah.
You know, it looks sort of simple or maybe sort of boring, or maybe just it's kind of like tidy and kind of, you know, it doesn't have the huge sort of mood swings of my rounds of golf, where it's just, you know, keeping the ball in front of you, getting up and down a lot, make one putting a few more times than I did, and suddenly, you know, 70, you know, where I had 76 and they had 68. You know, it's like, damn, you know, 68. Why aren't you on tour? But like, it really wasn't anything. There wasn't any magic or sorcery to it. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of quality. It's not easy to do that for sure. We'd all do it. But it's like I said, it's not, doesn't look or feel impossible. I mean, that's why we keep getting out there, right? And that's a question too. Play or practice, right? Learning to play the game. If you have that limited time and you're trying to get better, it's going to be different for everybody. You know, whether to go to the range or go to the golf course. How do you guys know when to do one or the other?
I don't know that we do.
I don't think we do. I don't think
Yeah.
we do. But I will say
I don't
say
either.
that-
I was just checking in case you did.
I will say the other thing though that we found extremely valuable, and another thing we probably waited too long to do, is a playing lesson. I think anyone at any skill level would benefit possibly more from a playing lesson than a swing lesson. At least one, just to have someone out there watching, because there's just things that a pro will see, and you're like, oh, I didn't even think to do that. I've got my 4-iron, and I was ready to hit a blazing cut, and you just want me to hit an 8-iron over that tree. Like it was very eye opening for us for sure. But it's tough. The play versus practice thing's tough. It's normally just dependent on how much time we have.
But I think that'll be interesting this year because of the amount of practice we're putting in beforehand. I do think that will change that ratio of practice and play, because we were trying to do so many things, you know, change wise in a season to try to get to a point where we could play good golf and drop the handicap. I think putting in a lot of work, I think that will free us up actually to play more. And I think it'll make our practice more efficient. At least I'm hoping. That's what I'm telling myself.
It
we'll
sounds
see.
like you guys have really, you know, it's amazing, you know, coming into season 6 or 6th year. And you're just sort of like, the process just now seems like it's becoming quite refined, and you're kind of zeroing in on some stuff. But it takes time, and you know, I certainly know what that's about. I'm still working on some of the same things that I was when I was doing Paper Tiger, and that was more than 6 years ago. So
Well, that was my question for you, Tom, though. Like, what
Yeah.
did you learn from Paper Tiger that carried over? And then what is like still like, what's hard to get back to that you were? Because didn't you get to were you like a +1?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's when where I'm at my lowest was a +1. I think something that made a huge difference for me in Paper Tiger, and it's something that I've just started working on in the new year, and something I wanted to ask you guys about as well, was my conditioning. Being in shape, having actual core, like having core strength, being able to locate my core, being familiar with what that was, and you know, getting back to that is something that I'm really focused on this year, because when I was doing Paper Tiger, I think one of the biggest differences for me through the bag, driver, putter, everything, was that I felt really solid over the ball, because I had like minimal body fat. I was the strongest I'd ever been. I was in the best shape of my life. You know, I'm probably not going to get back there this winter. But you know, I'm banging away on the Peloton. I've got talk about, you know, I've invested even more than swing aids. I've invested in you know, whether it be Golf Forever or weights or whatever to sort of, I still have my workout binder from Paper Tiger, and so I'm still going through the same stretches, the same core exercises, the same lunges, all that stuff. Man, it's much harder at this age than then.
Yeah.
But I think that physical well-being, I think it has a huge impact on in a few different ways. Obviously, physically, mentally as well. Though, like I felt like prepared. Like when I would show up and like, you know, I didn't always have, wasn't always breaking course records in Paper Tiger, but when I showed up, I felt prepared because I felt like I'd put the time in, and in the gym as well. Yeah. How's that going with you guys? I know you're doing your workouts with the speed training. Are there things you're doing in terms of overall sort of wellness that is making a difference?
You want to take that or me, Eli?
I was going to say, I think we had Ireland was an eye opener for me. You know, it took 2 rounds of walking on back-to-back days, and I felt like I had an arthritic hip. And my backswing went to like 6% of its max capability. So, but we documented this on the show last year. It was the first year in our lives where, we always kind of hit the gym more in the winter when you can't go hit balls. And then when you can hit balls, we hit the gym less. And that's kind of been the formula for a while. And, what's happened is you make some gains physically in the winter. And then you kind of just level off, when the winter's over. That's kind of been what the story is. Last year was the first year where we lost ground physically by not focusing on our fitness during the year. And it was a huge eye opener. I mean, I felt terrible at points last year, and my back hurt, my hips hurt, and there were so many things that regressed physically that we both kind of had to sit down and say, okay, not that we have to be P90X models, but like we've got to take some fitness seriously, and we've got to we've kind of got to be on this to a certain degree during the year.
We did bring Tony Horton on board. He's going to be he'll be on the next episode.
Yeah, he's doing all kinds of stuff.
Beach body.
Yeah.
Hashtag beach body.
But we both were like, we've got to commit to this at some level throughout the year because time is officially working against us in a way that it hasn't in the past, in our bodies. So
but to your question, Tom, like for me, it's been some golf flex stuff our good friend Irish Mike Carroll.
Irish Mike, shout out.
Yeah. That's something that I've been trying to do every morning. There's 4 key exercises that he says he does every day, and I always just want to be like him in most things. So, but it's a hip, it's hip mobility. It's a little bit of core stuff. I'm also doing. You mentioned Peloton. Charlie got me on the Peloton app. I'm about to go to week 4 with Emma. Emma is my new best friend. She doesn't know.
Emma Lovewell?
Emma Lovewell. Yeah.
Live long, love well. I love Emma.
Yeah.
I was just partying with her before I got on here.
See, it's money. Yeah. Crush your core. Crush your core. I've been crushing my core.
I'm crushing my core too.
No way.
Yeah.
Dude,
when she went from 5 to 10 minutes, not cool. I was like, what's this about?
That was a shock. That shocked us all.
Whoa, not ready for that, Emma.
But I mean, I'm 4 weeks in on that, and I'm already seeing and feeling a difference there. But actually, you mentioned the core thing, Tom, last time we talked last year, and that stuck with me, and that was something that probably 4 or 5 years ago, that was a big part. Keeping up physically was a big part of my life, and then it just kind of I lost that habit.
Yeah.
So getting back into that, I think, is important because there's some days last year where we showed up at the course and it was like, I don't think I can make the move that's in my head. Like my head knows what to do. My body's just not letting me do it.
No doubt about that. Yeah, for sure. So I think that's one of the cool things. And you've certainly experienced this because Chasing Scratch is very much about its community. And we hope the index experiment is, it already is about community as well. And that's where I think, it's hard to incorporate. It can be hard to incorporate community when you're on the driving range all alone, but when you're on your Peloton bike and working out with hashtag Broken Tea Society, or you're able to share where you are in terms of achieving certain goals or losing weight or getting more fit. I think knowing that there's a bunch of us in this together, I'm more motivated, and hopefully all of our members are as well. And and you've got a big force behind Chasing Scratch as well to push you along. I've seen it there, and it's been cool to watch them actually get better. I mean, there were some. I think some have gotten to scratch themselves.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
we've been lapped by a couple people, but
All the
but
time
no,
we're doing the pod, though. I mean, they're out there grinding, right? So it's not.
oh
fair.
yeah.
You're
No,
at a
that
disadvantage.
I think we said that last time though. That was one of the things that we never expected, but that is the community that has supported the show is just so
Mhm.
amazing, and they definitely drive us. They drive us every day.
Yep.
Well, I'm really, again, thank you so much for your inspiration, for bringing your story to the Golfer's Journal. It's a great kinship, and it's inspired us as well. Just want to leave you with a question. Tonight, you were talking about process. You're talking about taking some self-inventory, being very honest about where you are, etc. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking, you could sort of take golf out of what we're actually talking about here, and you could put in any sort of endeavor or just life in general. So I'm just curious, how has have your efforts to get better at golf, to improve your mental game, et cetera, all those things you're working on with Dr. J, et cetera, or any of your coaches, how has that led to life improvement?
Wow. Yeah. Where do you start?
Yeah, yeah, a lot of it. I'll just hit on the most recent one that we talked about just a few weeks ago, and it was kind of the realization. It was another Kobe video that we saw about putting a goal out there and it being scary, because if you don't achieve it, how would you feel? How are you going to feel about yourself if you don't achieve it? And that there's a defense mechanism out there. I think I'm going to get this right, Dr. J, but if I'm not, I'm sorry. But a self-sabotage method where if I don't give everything I have, if I hold something back, then I can look back and protect my ego by saying, well, I didn't try everything. And that's been, we talked about that New Year's Day. And I guess it's only been a month now, but I continue to just look at things through my life with that lens. And it's not everything, but there's a lot of things where I think I protect myself by not going all in. One of them were certain parts of golf, but I think there's certain parts of life. Like I can think back to business meetings. I know how long it would take me to properly prepare for a presentation. And sometimes I just wouldn't. And I'd wing it. And most of the time it was okay, but I think part of it was kind of like I don't want to fully prepare and then not do well and then have to look back and say, well, you tried your best and you still didn't get it done. So that's my biggest thing for just right now. There's countless lessons that we've learned throughout the years, but that's the one I'd say I'm continue learning this year.
I think with my kids, we talk about this all the time with the show. Like, purest, if you want to know the purest way to think about something, you think about how would you tell your kids, what would you teach your kids about it? And I coach both of my kids in AAU basketball, and I think this has just so rewired my thoughts about the process of getting better. And I was even my oldest son the other day, we were talking about something with sports, and he wanted to get better in an area, and he was frustrated because it wasn't happening in a time that was as quick as he wanted. And I mean, it was literally like right out of Dr. J's playbook and the stuff we've been working on. I said, hey man, just you got to stop worrying about whether it's getting to the level you want it to in the time you want it to. The question is, are you putting the work in the way that you need to put the work in? And if you are, then don't worry about it. It'll show up eventually. I don't know when it'll show up, but it'll show up. And I think I find myself all the time just thinking through things that we've been told about, like it's growth over results. I mean, I've hammered that home to my kids 100,000 times over the last 5 months. There's just so many things that I think have rewired not only the way I think about things that I'm taking on personally, but just how I think about things with my kids, and trying to rewire, it's like, man, if I can rewire the way they think about the world at this early of an age, like they'll just be geared to tackle whatever it is down the road and won't have the obstacles mentally to try to, that kind of help, work to push against you that I think Mike and I have documented in the show that we just didn't know we had. So yeah, I think it's worked its way in a billion different places.
It's awesome to hear. It's about more than golf. At the end of the day, hopefully on this path to improvement, it's just a worthy endeavor in itself. And things from doing that, things filter into your life, in different and surprising ways. So that's awesome to hear. And hey, and this other upside of all of this is that community aspect. And Mike and Eli, you going on this crazy adventure now, you're friends. You were always friends, but friends of mine and friends of ours and this community and friends of the Golfers Journal. So a tremendous upside as well that comes from all this actually getting off our couch and trying something. So thank you so much for being a part of this and joining us on the Golfers Journal podcast in the Broken Tea Society. Robbie Vogel, I see you there jumping on stage.
Hey, I just wanted to, echo your thanks to these two fine gentlemen, and also say if anyone, if we have a couple minutes, and if anyone wants to do some audience questions, throw a hand up and talk to our friends Mike and Eli. But if you don't, the only other thing I wanted to mention to you two guys, Mike, Eli, is that last year, before the index experiment, it was sort of a beta test, which we didn't even really know. We the group here started the 3-Jack fund, which I don't know if that's made its way across your desk, but the conceit is every time you 3-Jack 3-putt, you throw $1 in the pot, and there's a product on the Golfers Journal website. You tally up your 3 putts at the end of the month or whatever, and you pay up. And if you play a lot of golf, it can kind of end up owing a bit of money. But we ended up paying out $1,800 to 2 different charities. So it ends up as a 50-50 raffle
awesome.
at the end of the year. Yeah. So one lucky member won $1,800, and the other half went to a couple charities that we voted on in the server. So just something to think about if you're on the greens, maybe,
I love it.
stay involved.
That's awesome. I do love that.
Putting related charities, thankfully. Of
Of
course,
not.
to help people overcome their 4 and 5.
Mothers against leaving putts short. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called Dare. Yeah.
dare to stop lipping out 4-footers. We have our friend who I've just invited to throw a question in. There we go.
DK.
Hey.
Okay.
Question for you two guys, because I've basically binged the entire 6 episodes over the last summer. Mike B might remember me. I sent her a message from when I started binging this thing. As you guys have worked your ways down, how have you balanced your enjoyment of the game? I mean, I know at 11 handicap, I think throwing a 74 or 75 up there, you might have just felt like you won the lottery, and now you almost come home and I hear some of the podcasts and it's a frustrating 75. How do you balance the constant improvement with just the enjoyment of the game? I mean, aside from all the cool stuff that you guys get to do, going to Ireland, the late summer runs, how do you make that balance work in your own games?
I think it's tough. And I think we've gone up and down, and I think we've been good and bad at that. And it's kind of something that we knew that might come. That was a warning that the paterfamilias, my dad, gave us in the first episode. He said, "Don't let this quest ruin your love of golf." And I don't think it's gotten. I think there have been moments where it has, for sure, like where we've let the quest get in the way of what we enjoy and how we enjoy. But then I think it's just kind of coming into the realization that nothing stays the same. And you just have to be okay with that. Like we have in season 1, if we broke 80, like I couldn't wait to get on the phone and tell Eli about how I broke 80, and it was awesome. And like he was on the edge of his seat. And then, you know, last year if I broke 80, it was kind of like, hey, I shot 78, and you know that's what it was. But I think it's kind of like I think we mourned that before, or like that bothered us before that it was changing. But that's just how it is. Nothing will stay the same, and the things that we got excited about then, you know, there's other things now, but. I don't know, Eli. I think we've done a bad job at that, and we've done a good job at that at times. I think we're in a pretty good place now, with understanding kind of where the goal lines up as and how that relates to enjoyment.
I think a lot of self-deprecating humor also helps to just rein in any too serious of an approach. But yeah, I mean, that's the part of this game that's so awesome. I think the highs are super high. You play well for a week and you feel like you sit at work all day and you're like, when can I get out? When I've got to play today, I've got to do this. It's the greatest game on the planet. And the lows are just painfully low. But I don't think that's going to change. It's just the number that causes a high and a low changes, and it is what it is. I think that's what's awesome about golf. It's just very few things can do that. And you know, I think it's just getting to the point where you're just okay with it. Or you just threaten to quit the last 3 weeks of a season like we did season 5. You could go either way. So
self-deprecating humor goes a long way. As someone who, one of my goals in this index experiment was to, initially I wrote throw fewer clubs, and then I thought that was a little too on the nose. So I just said move past bad shots in half a minute. So we'll see where that goes.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Brandon Long is on the stage.
Hey guys, sorry, dealing with some iPhone settings there. You know, long time listener, first time caller.
Thank you.
Just wondering how we've gone well into an hour of this, and no one has brought the smoke.
I was gonna say I didn't want to interrupt Tom because he was flowing on Arcos, but we did just get a few emails. Actually, we got a number of emails from listeners that the new Arcos, we've not used it, but Arcos sensors are now called smoke sensors. And they said, you guys got to be in tandem. This had to be planned. And so, yeah, but no, we appreciate you bringing all the smoke that we forgot to bring.
Yeah. Arcos didn't want all that branding smoke.
All that smoke.
We have Scottistical, who I've just invited to the stage. And now I don't see his request anymore. We'll see if he comes back. Oh, wait, there we go. You should have to hit the... Yeah, there you go.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You're on.
Oh, great.
Hi.
Hey, it's Scott Jacobs, guys.
And Declan Jacobs.
And this is my son, Declan. He has one question. You can only ask one question. Okay, all right. Just ask your main question first.
When is the next father-child event?
Declan, that's a great question. Man, I don't know that we need to do one. We need to add that to the list.
It's got to happen. Yeah, it's got to happen. Where are you guys from?
We're from California.
California. Okay.
Don't twist
coming
my
to
arm.
San Diego. Yep, coming to San Diego, but Declan's not going to come.
Oh man.
Gotcha. Well, we'll be.
That's my other two questions, though.
All right, one other question, and then they got to go. You got a big fan here in Declan. I think his favorite was Lil Poochie.
Yeah. Yeah, does your friend still do Lil Poochie?
Oh,
does that friend of yours?
You know what? I haven't seen that friend in years, but I'm highly confident that within the first 15 seconds of being reunited with him, that's probably what would come out of his mouth. So Declan, I'm going to say yes.
Declan, I hope you're spreading Little Poochie throughout your school.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He spreads it everywhere.
Wait. No, I don't. No, I don't.
This is Declan is my new spirit
Declan.
animal.
Oh my gosh. Life goal right there. Declan.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Scott.
Appreciate
That's
you.
unbelievable.
Thanks,
What
guys.
what a man.
Can't wait to
that,
meet you, Scott.
that may be the youngest. That's absolutely the youngest caller we've ever had. So. The kid, they're getting better at technology every day. Those kids. 204 Frenchie. State your name.
Oh,
Hey, fellas.
Frenchie.
Frenchie.
They know who it is. What are you two guys doing to get in shape for Bandon next month? And before you guys cut me off, Eli, check your messages because we are supposed to talk later this week about Mason.
All right, I'm on it. Walking. I'm walking a lot, Frenchie. That's the goal. Is to put in a lot of miles on the indoor track between now and Bandon.
I'm gonna run a 10K. I heard that's a great thing to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure running one in a suit is going to help with your fitness, but
You don't have to do that in 3 weeks, Eli?
Do you
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
I've heard the training's going real well too.
Hey, I've prioritized a lot of the golf training. I'll just tell you that much. So
Yeah.
so the important things I'm doing, the running training, it's it might be a run walk, it might be a run crawl. We'll see.
Just use the stack as a walking stick.
That's right.
All right, thanks guys. We'll see you soon.
See you, Frenchie.
See you, Frenchie.
Yeah, Frenchie.
All right, I'm getting Looper Lou up here, who I met in Kentucky as part of our Bourbon Bash trip. Which Eli, I tried to link up with you, and I don't think it ever. Well, no, it didn't work because we didn't link up. But you guys have some golf out there. We played Kearney Hills.
Yeah,
that place is unbelievable.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
I had never played a Pete Dye course. It was the last round I played, and then I had to rip to the airport, and I would have stayed there all day. It was awesome. Really cool place.
Horse racing and bourbon. It's hard to find a place better than Central Kentucky.
You don't have to tell me twice.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, my mic was off. I had a statement and a question. The first, I'm 38 years old in Louisville, Kentucky. I have a 4-year-old and 6-year-old daughter. And so I'm living the life, the chasing scratch life, like to a T. I wanted to say this because your all's probably last few months of episodes, for me personally, like outside of golf, were incredibly important. I was going through some stuff at work and had a huge opportunity to kind of step up and interview for a really big promotion. And I think all that stuff about faking it and all of those recent episodes to start this year, when I heard that, it was like it clicked. And I went down and I nailed the interview and I got it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you all, it's because of you, but seriously, like, the impact that you're having, I think, for people and for me specifically, I just wanted to say that. So thank you. And my
Thanks for saying
question,
that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. My question was, when will Eli answer for all of the awkward people going around golf courses going, I'll hang up.
Oh
Listen.
man, that makes me happy. Yeah, I will give one of those now. Just you just got to let it hang out there for a little while.
Let it bang, as the kids say.
Let it bang, as the kids say.
All right, last question. We got C Mazzoni, and we'll let you guys get out of here. I know Tom's got Girl Scout cookies to sell on behalf of his daughter. So
I do. Everyone, go on my Instagram and buy Caroline's cookies. We need 100 boxes, folks. 100 boxes. Let's go.
You got the caramel delights?
We
Thin
do.
Mint?
They're gluten free this year.
Thin Mint action?
Mints. We got it all. Whatever it takes. Go do it.
I'm in.
Get on there. Now it's crazy. You don't just do it door to door. It's all, on
actually,
social media
Tom,
and all that.
I'm gonna check with Emma. And I'll get back with you. See if Emma's okay with that.
And, well, if you're gonna do a high impact ride, dude, you can eat all the Thin Mints you want.
Okay, that's a good point.
All right.
C Mazzoni, you are up.
Thanks, guys. Long-time listener. Hard to follow up that last question. Have you guys abandoned Adam Way with the coaches you have now and just forgotten the religion? I'll hang up and listen to you guys.
No, we haven't. And actually, Adam will probably be coming on the show in a few weeks. But there's a lot of stuff, like a lot of the skill work stuff that that Eli still does with Larry and that Jason does with me is straight out of the Adam handbook. So it's straight out of the scriptures. But no, I think what, and Adam told us this when he came on. He was like, this is not this hammer the nail is not the only thing. Like hammer the nail, like there's more to it. It's not just this one way. We decided to not listen to that and just kind of go all in and on the skill based non-technical stuff. Like I said, I think it's a mix. But yeah, no, we still talk to Adam, and yeah, I think he'll be on the podcast in a few weeks.
Outstanding. Mike, Eli, can't thank you enough. Thanks everyone for joining us. This was a great crowd. This will be available as a Golfers Journal podcast wherever you get your podcast. It will be on YouTube as well. We managed to video. We'll no promises. No, it's going to be on YouTube as well. So you can check that out. Guys, we love you guys, and we just wish you all the best. We'll be following along.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah.